Healing in Souls PvP has always been a touchy subject, especially with Bloodborne. In fact, healing has often been looked down upon as dishonorable or even scummy by a decent amount of viewers and players. Well, unfortunately for you, for us, this needs to change. We're about 5 years too late to talk about this, but the record needs to be set straight about healing in Bloodborne PvP. To a certain extent, this video crosses over into the other Soulsborne games too, but for now, let's keep our focus on Bloodborne. We need to clear the misconception that healing is a deplorable action so that the greater community can have a better understanding of these mechanics, and perhaps even of each other, unless that's too much to hope for. Maybe not. Anyways, here it is. Healing is okay. Using blood vials is okay. Invasions, duels, PvP in its entirety, healing is okay. And there are many reasons why this is the case. This has nothing to do with courtesy or the elusive definition of honor, but rather has everything to do with how Bloodborne PvP operates, the mechanics. If players don't heal, a fundamental base for the PvP is being neglected. And there's 4 specific points I'm going to talk about. Number 1, blood gems. The highest damaging blood gems give weapons incredibly high AR. Some blood gem setups will knock off a third, or a half, or even more of your health with an R1, an R2, an L2, etc. Aggressive fights will most definitely finish in 30 seconds or less because of this. Furthermore, by having high damaging attacks with no ability to heal, the safest way to play would be to back away and play reactively, to play passively. Meanwhile, Bloodborne offers a variety of movesets and combinations with the weapons and the hunter tools that benefit and reward aggressive playstyles and unorthodox thinking. By playing passively, the variety of Bloodborne's combat is done an immense disservice. So we're effectively left with 2 options, 2 outcomes. Either players have to take out their blood gems and then fight with no healing, which is actually an incredibly valid way to play, I will vouch for it, or leave in the blood gems and heal. The issue here being that you can't possibly expect folks out in the wild, the random players, the Nightmare Frontier, the Nightmare of Mensis, you can't expect all of them to adhere to that no blood gem having rule. Unless you are specifically in a controlled environment like a fight club in a chalice dungeon, players who aren't in the know, or players who just don't care, will be bringing their biggest gems. This is something you have to account for, which leads directly to my next point. Number 2, health differences. If we use the health you have when you're a host as the base, aka this is 100% of your health, then adversaries and cooperators will always have 30% less health. On the opposite end, if adversaries and cooperators were the base, then hosts will always have 42% more health, or in other words, 1.42 times more, for all you math nerds out there. Either way you cut the cake, this is a noticeable and significant difference. What some hosts tend to do in these situations is blood tap. You take 30% of your health away by doing this. Thus, you get as equal a footing in the health department as mechanically possible. This sounds like the problem's been solved, right? However, this ends up much like the previous point. You are placing a large amount of expectations on the random player. Not only do you expect them to leave their blood vials at home, but also to blood tap. Again, in a controlled arena, a fight club, a friendly get-together with like-minded individuals, this would not be an issue. But the intent of this video is twofold. You have to prepare yourself for the uncontrolled situations when someone does heal, and as it turns out, healing adds more to the PvP engagements. Thus, I'm led to the 3rd point. Number 3, heal parries exist. While you could backstab a heal in Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1, in Bloodborne, you can shoot someone who's attempting to heal, which sets them up for a visceral, resulting in big damage and most likely death. You can't necessarily parry a blood vial on reaction, but this doesn't mean that they're impossible or even difficult to pull off. Heal parrying, more often than not, is a prediction, and you will have to trust me when I say that most players are easy reads for when they want to heal. And one of the key fundamentals of Bloodborne PvP is learning when your opponents want to heal. The more advanced players in the game will often condition you to think that you can get a safe heal off, when in reality, it was the opposite. And this isn't a particularly difficult skill to pick up on. After losing a sizable amount of their health, players will want to create as much distance between you and them as possible. In order to do this, they'll want to dash away from you. While dashing is a safe move, where you dash to can be a very unsafe position. As long as the shooter has a clear shot on you, you're still in danger. All the opponent has to do is time their shot at the end of your dash and boom, heal denied. By entering a no-heal fight, this mechanic is null and void. Well, actually, parry still exists, but having the ability to punish what quite a few nerds thought was unpunishable back in the day adds a dynamic to the fights that other Soulsborne games don't quite have. To my last point. Number 4, the bell system. This is more of a passive issue rather than something that deals with the fights as they happen, but this still compounds in on itself if there's no heals. Due to the inconsistent nature of the bell ringing system in Bloodborne, you may have to wait several minutes in order to get another fight where other players are connecting just fine. And if you waited all those minutes for a fight that either lasted 15 seconds, or for a fight that had overwhelming amounts of passivity, or for a fight where you thought the player was going to check all the marks on how to be a good duelist expectation list, when it turns out that the streets be much colder than that, it could drain all the fun out of the gameplay. Heals bring you right back into the fight. Heals keep the fight going, and that's the thing. You can punish that, and in most instances, those longer fights are the more fun ones, in my personal opinion. But also, here's my disclaimer. I'm not trying to say that we need to be rid of no-heal fights. They definitely have a place, and hear it from me that no-heal fights still are fun. However, no healing tends to only be successful in, like I said, controlled environments like Fight Club dungeons. When you're out in the wild with random players, everyone has a different idea of how to approach a duel or an invasion. They may want to blood tap to lower their health, or they may not. But even if they do blood tap, they may still heal all the same. This should not make the healing player the vilified one. You're gonna have to take my word on the fact that there are many different ways for scummy players to act scummy, but healing shouldn't be the end-all, be-all of scum. In conclusion, unless otherwise stated in a Fight Club's rules or in a stream's rules, healing ought to be the norm, in Bloodborne at least. Invasions, friendly duels, random duels, etc. If you consider the damage players can put out, the host-favored healing differences, the inconsistent bell summoning, and the fact that heal parries exist, healing ought to be more commonplace in Bloodborne PvP. And whether or not a similar talk needs to happen with the other Soulsborne games, or even Elden Ring for that matter, it remains to be seen. The other Soulsborne games vary drastically in healing mechanics. In Dark Souls 3, for instance, anyone who isn't the host only gets half the Estus. In Dark Souls 2, anyone who isn't the host can't even use Estus. But for now, for Bloodborne, believe in blood vials. Believe in healing. Believe in heal parries. And that's it for me. Stay safe out there, y'all. Have a good day, and have a good night.